Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered at all? Have you ever wondered the possibilities? Ever wondered into dreams, into nightmares? All of these different but unexplained stories. Have you ever wondered? That's my biggest question in all of this. In my opinion, I think characters have almost the soul of wonder. They're almost the personification of what wonder is. The what ifs, the what abouts, the this different scenarios that we can barely imagine. That we can actually have the ability to imagine these scenarios is so profound and unique. So real, so fake. Hi, I've been a creator for nearly half a decade, right? About now. So here is the tutorial of how to create a character, an OC, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, I have plenty of universes, worlds, dimensions, etc. All for my different original characters, all of different things. And I haven't even explored half, if not, I haven't explored that much of these possibilities, but we'll get there. Alright, baby steps first. First of all, we need to figure out what is an original character. An original character, like I said before, it personifies wonder. It basically is a fictionality, something that you made up, right? It's kind of like a lie, but imagine it being like a real person. It's an imagination more than a lie. More of an imaginative lie. If you want to go there, then I could see what you're putting down. It's this imaginative lie that is put into a certain atmosphere, a certain theme, a certain story, a certain background. It's put into this any sort of context, whether it's films, movies, television shows, or whatever you want to do. An original character starts with you and what you want to do with it. An original character is fiction. An original character is whatever you want it to be. Let me tell you how I made my original characters and the amounts of steps I went through along the way. First of all, making characters does not require you to be smart, require you to be talented. It doesn't require practice. All it requires is imagination. That's the main point here. All it requires is you to be rich of imagination. You don't have to be smart, you don't have to be wise, you don't have to be anything but imaginative. And even then you can pull some strings here and there. But an original character, my first original characters was first in the original universe. My original universe. Where I used to draw characters like this. Right? This is one of my first original characters. I know it's not the best, but original characters don't require you to be the best. If anything, it's sort of a start of this journey that it only gets better from here, right? Second of all, if you want, and this is all, there's so many what ifs and so many things that you can alter, but first of all, there is the design and the character really, it really shows you the character, if that makes sense. The design shows you what the character is, who they really are, or it gives you a faint idea of who you think they could be, and that has to be important, or usually is important within certain contexts. So right here, this character is called Illusion Master. Here's an example. Why I chose red, blue, and green. It's kind of symbolizing the illusions, like the illusions as a whole. Like, because color is illusion, right? Color isn't something that you can actually see within. Well, we can see it, but it's not real, right? That's exactly what an illusion is. So, the color schemes, and then the hood hiding the black hair, that's right. If you hang on. Anyways, it's. Oh, hang on. Right there. That black hair right there. The hood is kind of hiding the hair, symbolizing like the color hiding what its true form, its illusions. And I think illusions is the main theme with this character. Illusion Master is literally in the name. So that goes to show you as an example of design usually matters. But if you don't, this is if you want it to be serious. Like, all of these things, you can, everything is subjective. There's no one way to do characters, no one way to make characters. Yeah. Now that we've gone over this relationship with, well, method of making characters, right? I usually drew these characters. So yeah, that's the first method. I had certain eras, like all of these characters right here were drawn. And then we're gonna get to a new sort of thing. With, how do I show? Alright, so the most, let me see. So I had methods like this, writing characters, alright? So I would just suggest you actually have all of the methods instead of just doing one like I used to do. But first, we talked about how drawing a character can bring them to life. But now we're going to talk about writing characters. Like, there's no the visualization is within the words of the page. And right here, I go into detail with the anomaly universe, or it's a universe it's a parallel to the SCP universe that is very common within the sort of arts of like creation, right? We like SCPs are very common within it was more common before, like in 2020, 2022. Those were the SCP's golden years. But anyways, this is very similar to that. Similar to the SCP vibes, the backroom vibes, things like that. It, um, it's just where you put, it's like sort of a documentation of the character. So this is where this, if you wanted to do this sort of creation method, I mean, I wouldn't blame you. First of all, it's a lot less hard on people, right? Because all you gotta do is have a faint idea of it. And if you have a faint idea of it, you can. It's not like with a. It's not like a drawing, because with a drawing you know exactly what it's supposed to look like. But with certain with documentations like this, you can interpret things differently. Once you interpret things differently, that brings the Aya perspective into the whole mixture of creation. So, for example, if you one person sees this story, a lonely ghost that has the ability to go to a place where others go when they die, an afterlife, if you will. So people can interpret that in so many different ways. That's the I think that's one of the more pros. That's a big pro in my opinion. That's a big pro in my opinion. And but you don't really get to use it that much if it's just you. So I wouldn't suggest doing this method for I wouldn't suggest doing this method for a first timer thing. I mean, only if you can't do this method. I mean, if you can't draw or anything, then I could see why you would do it, but I would recommend doing all of these, or at least trying all of these to make a good, strong character. But it's not. If you don't want to make a strong character, then that's fine too. I get that. Then we get to another era. So this universe, and along with two others, which I can't show for some reasons, were made in the documentation era of my creations, right? Then I have the new era, which involves a website called Picrew. It's a safe website where you are able to make characters, right? It says so you not only do I take some you take some parts of the documentation era, then you take some parts of a drawing era, but you don't even have to be good with drawing, because this website you can go on to, it's safe and whatnot. You can go onto that, you can create different combinations of what you think the characters will look like. So it does lose that sort of interpretation thing, but it does give you a certain. Does give your characters a certain look, a certain style. There's so many styles, like you are seeing right here, right now. I used Picrew for a lot of these characters. Almost all of them, actually. Anyways, the point is, you get a bit of all three of, you get the documentation from, so you just, after you have the combination made, or you can do the story first, or personality, whatever you want to call it. You do one, and then you get the other next. It's so much easier than drawing, much more convenient. That's a plus to that. And yeah. Then my next era, which if you looked into my series, I have character theories. That's actually my most recent video, where these characters can be adapted into AI art. Now I know that's very controversial, because it's not your own, not really fair to the real artist. But I mean, I feel like it really helps me to not only to get the character that I really want. So it really helps me put them into a format where it feels good. It feels nice, better than just Pit Crew. It feels like the upgraded version of Pit Crew, but a bit more like iffy because of the more ethical thing. It's complicated, but I would suggest if you want to do that, that's a what if scenario. That's if you have like a character that you want to get right. Then I would suggest AI arts to do it, not Pit Crew. But most of these, I don't really like. I'm not even gonna get to these characters. But regardless, let's talk about the characters' hearts as a whole. So, characters, original characters have a lot of aspects to them. I mean, first you need a strong name, which, well, you don't even need a strong name. If you look at any of these titles of any of these characters, you already know that they don't have strong names, alright? But what you do need is a captivating story to go along with these characters. You need, well, personality as well. What does the character, how will the character act with other characters? Where's the dynamic? And we also have to talk about villains, but we'll get there. Example. Illusion Master is a 35-year-old. He is incredibly arrogant, sly, clever, dishonest, a trickster, if you will, that uses his illusions to his advantage. He is advanced beyond mankind. He's advanced mankind with his technology. And in his story, he feels cheated when his brother takes away his technology. So he hunts down his brother and finds out that his brother gave it to a deadly man, the most dangerous man in his city or town or wherever they. You also have to figure out where they live at. That's another thing. This is an example, my own example, but that's the plot of this guy's story. And again, you don't have to have all of these things. I have to remind you that all of this is subjective. Things can change. You are allowed to change your characters from how were supposed to be and how they are now. But yeah, we touched upon personality. Okay, personality. We touched upon how they have to be like, right? We touched upon how personality you need to make a strong personality, but sometimes personality can just happen within the context of the story. It really depends on what you're making. Like if you have like a book or something, I would suggest like yeah, you want a few personality traits, but that heart of the character needs to be figured out first. You need to like have that heart of the character figured out. And what I mean by a heart of the character is the theme of the character. Illusion Master's theme is deception. Honestly, yeah, that's his whole theme. Like, it's a theme is another strong thing for characters. The Google definition of theme is a piece of writing, a person's thoughts on. It's just a topic. So, what is the topic of the character? So, the main topic of the character, yeah, it's lies and deception in this context, but you have to have a main theme for the whole, like, for the whole story, and how will that affect your main characters? And it also depends on how many characters are you willing to put into a story. I would suggest you don't do that many because it's quite hard to add that many things into a storyline and keep it very easy to follow. It can get convoluted quickly with the more characters that you add into the story. Okay, we went over all of my methods of character creation. We went over drawing, the drawing era. We went over the documentation era. Sorry, I cannot talk. We also went over the Pit Crew era, and then we went over the AI art era. AI art era is iffy, Pit Crew era is iffy, but the documentation era and the drawing era, you have to have those. I'd suggest trying all of these. Backstory. Alright. So, it would, again, if you're making something that's not good, like that's not serious, I wouldn't suggest going all out with a convoluted backstory, but I still think that backstory is important because it really it determines what the future is gonna be for that character. If there's gonna be foreshadowing, like let's say a character in, okay, let's say this character right here, Reito or whatever. That's this character's name. They have a person related to them that dies to a gunshot wound. That means, and then we see at the end of their story, it's maybe foreshadowed that they're gonna die to that same fate. Or maybe or they're gonna have the opportunity to get vengeance on the same person that killed their best friend or whatever by the same method, or would they just clean it all together? Like, backstory adds depth. Backstory adds to the rich riches of storytelling as a whole. That was a lot. Anyways, next up, relationships with the characters. I briefly talked about that, but we gotta go further in. This is talking about protagonist being the main character. What character is the story about? That's what a protagonist is. Or rather, whose perspective are we seeing this from? That's another one. And we got the side characters. The ones who help, the ones who add a bit more, who add the side plots and whatnot. Then you got the antagonist and one going up against the protagonist. Usually the main villain, but again, it doesn't always have to be the main villain. There are many examples of them not being villains and being heroes. Yeah. And again, you guys don't have to make your characters perfect. Like, none of the characters I have right now are perfect in any shape or form, and I don't think they ever will be. But I think that's the fun of it. You need to progress, you need time to get better, to have that failure and then turn it into success. I think if you give it time, give it a few months, if you take this seriously, a year maybe, you can have a whole world, whole universe. You could be just like me if you really want to. But those are the main topics of the character creation and what an OC is. Let me remind you guys, an OC is the heart of imagination, the heart of wonder. In my opinion, yeah. I'm sorry if I'm enforcing my opinions here, but I believe that characters themselves are at least a embodiment of imagination, of wonder. And making all of these characters is one of the best ways to develop your wonder. To develop your what if scenarios that go within your head, that swim within the insides of your brain. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about genres and how that can affect how that can affect certain things. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, because I am having a wonderful day. See you later, and my fellow creators, stay safe, stay calm and collected. Bye.